And
That's good. Oh, matana
that's good morning, my friends.
Okay. You give him a cuss.
Red. Tanshe Amanda Anderson Dishinakashan, Edmonton, Alberta, Doshchin, in Michif Nia. Hi everyone, my name is Amanda Anderson. I'm from Edmonton, Alberta, and I am Michif. My family names are Anderson, Huri, Bird, Gladue, and Bertie, and we're from the Prince Albert area of Saskatchewan. Over the summertime, we harvested Saskatoon berries, wild strawberries, some wild raspberries, and chokecherries from Nkklaten and Seal territory. Today we're going to make preserves, jams, and jellies from these fruits. Now let's make some jam.
Perfect.
To me, jam is cooked fruit in some sort of sweetener as a way to preserve it. To prepare berries for canning, the preparation starts actually in the summertime when you are harvesting the berries. When you get home, it's really good to sort through the berries and pick out any leaves or stems or any bad berries that are spoiled. And you can just put those back outside, and then you can wash the berries, just rinse them around a couple times in water, and then I always put them out flat on towels or trays to dry, and then put them in the freezer in Ziploc bags for later use. And then when you're ready to make your jam, all you do is pull your berries out of the freezer and let them defrost. The amount of sugar that you add to your fruit really depends on the type of fruit that you're using. Typically it is 2 parts fruit to 1 part sugar. If I'm using a super sweet fruit like strawberries, I might reduce the sugar, but I think the absolute minimum you need is about 1/3 sugar to 2/3 fruit. And then if you're ever in doubt, you can always Google, ask Google, because, there's lots of people who do canning full time and have done lots of testing, but it is really important to make sure that you are using the correct ratio of sugar so that your jam doesn't spoil. There's no set time that it takes to make any type of jam. They're all going to be different based on how much fruit you have. If you're making a very large batch, it'll take a lot longer than if you're making a very small batch of jam. And then also different types of fruits have different water content. So some jams, like a strawberry jam, will come together pretty quickly because the fruit has a lot of pulp and it doesn't have as much of a water content. But then other jams like blueberry or Saskatoon, they might take a little bit longer because the berry has a lot more water in it. Usually when I'm making larger batches of jam, it'll take a little bit longer. So while the jam is cooking, it's a good opportunity to tidy up your space and also work on sterilizing the jars. So for the jars, you just put them into boiling water for 5 to 10 minutes to sterilize them, and then you do that with the lids as well.
What's the best way to handle the jars and lids when they're coming out of the water? Like, you want to use like tongs or a glove so you don't burn yourself, but how do you avoid like contaminating your lids when you're taking them out of the water?
Right. I always sterilize my lids inside of like a metal colander. That way I can pick them all up in one scoop, essentially.
Oh.
And then I'll put that colander over top of like a clean bowl, so that no contaminants will get onto the lids.
When we're adding jam into the jars, how high up in the jar is it okay for the jam to go?
When you're filling your jars with the jam, it's good to fill it right up to where the twisty part of the lid starts. You have to leave about a half an inch of space at the top so that the lids will seal properly.
Gotcha. And so speaking of sealing, how do we cook the jars with the jam inside? Like how long do they stay in the water, or how high up should the water be on the jar?
Yeah, so there's two different types of canning methods that you could do. You could do water bath canning or pressure canning. For most jams and jellies, it is fine to do water bath canning because they have both a high sugar ratio and high acidity. Once your jars are filled right to the I don't even know what that's called.
It's called the lip.
The lip. It's good to clean the rim of the jar. It just helps to make sure that you get a good seal on all of the jars. So usually for this, you can use a wet paper towel, or some people will use like a paper towel that's been wet with vinegar and just gently wipe off the top of all the rims before putting the lids on. You put your metal lids on and tighten them, but don't tighten them too tight, just like a comfortable amount. For water bath canning, you want the jars to either be submerged in water or filled right to the rims. And then you boil them. It really depends on what you're canning. For jams, I usually boil them for like 25 minutes, and that usually allows for the jam to get hot enough to seal the jars, essentially. One really important technique to know when you are canning your jams is that when you have hot jam in a hot jar, you can close it and put it into a hot water bath. If you have a cold jam therefore making it a cold jar, you have to put it in a cold water bath. If you have a cold jam in a cold jar and you put it in a hot water bath, it can crack the glass. So once you've boiled your jars in the water bath canner for your 25 minutes or however long you're canning them for, definitely make sure you use like a can lifter grabber. That's the safest method to remove the hot jars out of the boiling water. Then you can put them either onto a clean dish towel or a wire rack and let them cool. From here, you have to let them sit there for 24 hours without moving them or anything, because that can compromise the seal on the jar. And every jar should make a popping sound to let you know that it has sealed. After the 24 hours is up, you can press down on the center of each of the jars. And if any of them pop back up, that means the seal did not work. And then for those ones, I typically just put them in the fridge and then eat them right away.
What made you want to make this wild strawberry jam, or what inspired the flavors for it?
Where I'm from, wild strawberries, you usually can't really pick enough to make it into anything. But we were super lucky this year to find a very abundant wild strawberry area where we were able to harvest a lot of strawberries. I thought it would just be a really nice special gift to make for friends and family, and a way to capture sort of that really special taste that we only associate with the summertime. Essentially, all the things that we harvested in that little glimpse of summer, the wild strawberries, which are very sweet, with the wild raspberries, which are a lot more tart, and the slightly floral rose petals made a really fun flavor combination. And then cook those together with the typical 2-to-1 sugar ratio. You'll see I used a scale to measure this there because the wild strawberries and raspberries are so little, and I was combining them, so I just decided to use a scale to measure that. And it tasted real good.
Yeah.
One thing I really love about jam making is that it gives you an opportunity to be creative if you'd like. You can add different ingredients to your jam to play around with the flavors, and some of the items could be regularly available in an average home kitchen, like cinnamon. Cinnamon pairs really good with like apples or pears. You can even try it with other fruits like berries. If you're feeling a little bit more adventurous, you could try getting cardamom, which is also available at grocery stores. This kind of has a similar feeling to cinnamon, but it has a bit more of a floral taste, which is really nice to me. It's probably my favorite one to use. Another thing you can try playing around with is vanilla. This is vanilla bean paste, which is available at Superstore or No Frills, and that just adds like a really warm sort of sweet flavor to any jams or fruits. Another thing you can play around with is any edible flowers. So these are rose petals. You could harvest these, which is what we did for the strawberry jam that we made. Just make sure when you're harvesting from somewhere where there is no pesticides used. So we got these pretty far out into the forest. Definitely don't just pick any roses you see in the city, as they might be sprayed with pesticides. Or you can buy these. I think we got these at just like a small little grocery store in the city. Also, when you're harvesting wild rose petals, it's really important not to clear out a whole bush. Don't pick every single petal off of every flower. We still want the flowers to live after we harvest from them and continue to positively impact the ecosystem and provide, food for the bees and everything like that. So we just usually take 1 or 2 rose petals from each of the roses. Not each, but like from a rose. If you're feeling super adventurous, you could explore into the more sweet and savory flavor combinations. I like to think about this if I plan to use the jam for any meat, like wild game or just like commercial meat. You can incorporate things like peppercorns. So this is just like a pepper shaker. You can just pull a couple peppercorns from. If you like spicy, you could add chili flakes. You can even add fresh chilies to a jam too. That's really nice. You can also add herbs. So this is rosemary. You could add thyme, anything like that. And those are really fun flavors to play around with if you are anticipating using the jam more for a savory purpose. I've seen some people do like raspberry hot pepper jellies with like cheese and stuff like that too, which is super fancy if you're feeling that inclined. But I typically tend to stick with like the sweeter stuff unless I'm making things with rose hips, because I think rose hips have a bit more of a savory taste, kind of like tomatoes. Once you decide you want to start to learn about canning, there are lots of resources to help you. There are a few specific techniques that you do need to be mindful of when you're canning to make sure that everyone is going to be consuming a safe and healthy food item after it's been canned. Improper canning can lead to illness if it's not done correctly. So it is really important to follow the specific canning guidelines. Places you can find that are official websites. So the Government of Canada has an official canning guideline that has a lot of the rules around canning different things, from things like fruits or jams to all the way up to more advanced things like meat. The website for the different can companies or jar companies, they often have recipes as well and techniques for canning there. If you have a pressure canner, the instruction manual comes with some recipes in here as well. You can get books that are specifically about canning. So this one is a bit more advanced. It's about canning meat, fish, and game. So that would be a more advanced book. This is a really good book if you live along the coast. talks about harvesting plants in a good way and also includes some jam recipes there. And then there are other books as well that'll include different jam recipes. Thank you for watching this video. We hope that it has inspired you to learn a little bit more about food preservation. Food preservation has been part of every nation for time immemorial in some way, and preserving via glass jars is just one way that a lot of people continue to preserve their food. And yeah, we hope that it has inspired you to learn a little bit more about food preservation and, just thinking about where our food comes from and how we can harvest ethically and share our harvests. Making jams is also a really nice way to make gifts for others. You can use it to gift your friends and family, or even for ceremonies or giveaways. So yeah, merci everyone for watching, and Kawapamatin, I will see you again.